The roar of the crowd shook the ancient stone walls of the Iron Vale arena. Torchlight danced across weathered banners bearing the crest of the Valdres pack, a silver wolf beneath a blood moon. At the center of the pit, surrounded by hundreds of howling spectators, stood Kalen Valdres, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. He was magnificent in his brutality. Tall enough to tower over most men, broad across the shoulders, with arms corded in muscle that spoke of a lifetime of combat. His dark hair was pulled back from a face carved from granite, sharp jaw, high cheekbones, and storm-gray eyes that held nothing but cold indifference. "Who dares challenge the Alpha King?" His voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. The crowd fell silent, waiting. This was the right of dominion, an ancient tradition where any wolf could challenge the Alpha for position, territory, or favor. In 300 years, no challenger had survived more than 2 minutes against a Valdres Alpha. Kalen had stopped counting his victories long ago. They meant nothing to him now. Nothing meant anything anymore. Not since Lysara. "Another night, another fool," muttered Draven, his beta and closest advisor, from the edge of the pit. "Perhaps we should simply cancel these challenges. No one worthy ever—" His words died as the crowd parted. She walked through them like a ghost made flesh, and the spectators stumbled over themselves to clear her path. Not from fear, Kalen realized, but from something else entirely. Awe, perhaps, or recognition of something dangerous. The woman who descended the stone steps into the arena was not what anyone expected. She was tall for a female, nearly reaching Kalen's shoulder, with a warrior's build, lean muscle beneath sun-darkened skin. Her hair was the color of autumn fire, deep copper streaked with gold, pulled back in a severe braid that revealed the full extent of what made the crowd gasp. Scars. They carved across her face like a map of suffering. 3 parallel lines that ran from her left temple, across her cheek, and down to her jaw. More scars disappeared beneath the worn leather armor she wore, hinting at wounds that covered far more than just her face. Her left eye was clouded, milky white, clearly blind, but her right eye burned amber gold with such fierce intensity that Kalen felt something stir in his chest for the first time in years. "I am Seraphina of the Ashwood Pack," she announced, her voice carrying clear and strong despite its husky rasp. Or what remains of it? A murmur rippled through the crowd. The Ashwood Pack. Kalen knew that name. Everyone did. 3 years ago, the entire pack had been slaughtered in a single night, burned alive in their own territory by hunters wielding silver and wolfsbane. There were no survivors. Or so everyone believed. "I challenge Kalen Valdres," she continued, drawing a blade from her hip, "for the right to join the Valdres pack as a warrior." Draven stepped forward. "You insult the Alpha King with such a petty request. Warriors are recruited, not—" "Let her speak." Kalen's voice was quiet, but it silenced his beta immediately. He found himself walking closer to this scarred woman, studying her with an interest he hadn't felt in years. "You survived the Ashwood massacre." It wasn't a question. "I survived many things." Her golden eye met his without flinching. "I need a pack. You need warriors. I'm told the right of dominion allows any wolf to fight for what they seek." "You're told correctly." Kalen circled her slowly, noting the way she tracked his movement, the way her weight shifted to compensate for her blind side. A trained fighter. "But challengers fight the Alpha himself. Most don't survive." "I'm not most." Something that might have been a smile flickered across Kalen's face, the first in 3 years. "No," he agreed softly. "I don't believe you are." He removed his cloak and tossed it aside, revealing the battle-scarred torso beneath. The crowd roared its approval, hungry for blood. "First blood or submission," Kalen announced, falling into a fighting stance. "Those are the terms." Seraphina's response was to attack. She moved like lightning given form, faster than any wolf Kalen had faced in decades. Her blade sang through the air where his throat had been a heartbeat before, and he barely twisted away in time. The crowd gasped. No one had ever come that close on a first strike. Kalen's eyes widened. Interesting. He counterattacked with brutal efficiency, a combination that had ended countless challengers. But Serafina wasn't there. She'd anticipated his movement, slipping beneath his guard and driving her elbow into his ribs with enough force to make him grunt. They separated, circling each other now with new respect. "You're faster than you should be," Kalen observed, "and you're slower than the legends claim." Her scarred lips curved into something fierce and beautiful. Perhaps the great Alpha King has grown soft in his palace. Rage flickered through him, the first real emotion in years, but beneath the rage was something else. Something that felt dangerously like exhilaration. They clashed again and again, trading blows that would have killed lesser wolves. Serafina fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. All fury and precision and relentless aggression. But Kalen was still the Alpha King, still the most powerful wolf in the Northern Territories. Wasn't he? The turning point came when Serafina feinted left, drawing his guard, then spun with impossible speed and swept his legs from beneath him. Kalen hit the ground hard, and before he could recover, she was on him. Her blade pressed to his throat, her knee pinning his chest, her golden eye blazing down at him with triumph. The arena fell utterly silent. No one had ever put the Alpha King on his back. No one had ever held a blade to his throat. "Yield," Serafina commanded, her voice barely above a whisper, meant only for him. Kalen stared up at her, at the scars that told stories of survival against impossible odds, at the fierce pride that burned in her eye, at the rapid pulse he could see jumping in her throat despite her controlled expression, and something inside him, something he'd locked away after Lysara's death, began to crack. "I yield," he said. The words fell into shocked silence. Then chaos erupted. "No!" Draven charged toward the pit. "This is impossible. She must have cheated. The Alpha King cannot—" Silence. Kalen rose slowly after Serafina stepped back, his eyes never leaving hers. The wound to his pride should have been unbearable. Instead, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 long years. Alive. He felt alive. "Serafina of Ashwood." His voice carried across the stunned crowd. "You have bested me in fair combat. By ancient law, your request is granted. You are now a warrior of the Valdris pack." She inclined her head, a motion that was more acknowledgement than submission. "My thanks, Alpha King." "You will address him as my king or Alpha," Draven spat. "Show proper respect to—" "She has earned the right to address me however she pleases," Kalen interrupted. "She is the first to defeat me in 300 years. I would say that entitles her to certain privileges." He walked past her toward the arena's exit, close enough that his shoulder nearly brushed hers, close enough to catch her scent, wood smoke and wild roses and something underneath that made his wolf stir restlessly. "Mate." The word rose unbidden from somewhere deep in his consciousness, and Kalen crushed it ruthlessly. No. He had sworn never to love again, never to take another mate after what happened to Lysara. The bond had nearly destroyed him when she died. He would not, could not, survive that devastation twice. But as he climbed the stone steps and felt Serafina's golden eye burning into his back, Kalen couldn't shake the feeling that fate had other plans. Sleep did not come easily to the Valdris stronghold that night. In her small chamber in the warriors' barracks, a sparse room with a narrow bed, a wooden trunk, and a single high window, Serafina sat cross-legged on the floor, methodically cleaning her blade by candlelight. The familiar ritual usually calmed her racing thoughts. Tonight, it failed utterly. "You defeated the Alpha King." The words still didn't feel real. 3 years of surviving alone in the wilderness, of training until her muscles screamed and her bones ached, of nursing a hatred so pure it had become the only thing keeping her alive, and it had all led to this moment. She had come to the Valdris Pack with a single purpose: destroy the ones responsible for the Ashwood massacre. The trail of evidence she'd gathered pointed here, to someone within the Alpha King's inner circle. Someone who had betrayed her people to the hunters, had told them exactly when and where to strike. Gaining position in the pack was supposed to be the hard part. Defeating Kaelin Valdris in combat had seemed an impossible dream when she'd first conceived this plan, but she'd done it. And now everything was more complicated than she'd anticipated. Seraphina touched the scars on her face, feeling the familiar ridges beneath her fingertips. She'd earned these the night her pack died, fighting off the hunters long enough for the pups to escape. Not that it mattered. The hunters had tracked them down anyway. She was the only one left. The last Ashwood wolf. His eyes, she thought unwillingly. When I pinned him down, his eyes. She'd expected rage, expected humiliation turning to cold fury. What she'd seen instead had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Wonder, fascination, and beneath it all, a grief so profound it recognized her own. "Stop it," she muttered to herself. "He's not your concern. None of them are." A knock at her door made her hand fly to her blade. Seraphina of Ashwood. The voice was female, cool, and precise. "I am Isolde, keeper of the Alpha's household. The Alpha King requests your presence in his private study." Now. Seraphina's eye narrowed. "It's past midnight. The Alpha King keeps his own hours. Will you come, or shall I tell him you refused?" Minutes later, Seraphina pushed open a heavy oak door to find a vast study lined with books and scrolls that reached from floor to ceiling. A fire crackled in an enormous hearth, casting dancing shadows across rich carpets. But her attention went immediately to the figure standing at the window, his back to her, gazing out at the moonlit mountains beyond. "Close the door." She did, the heavy wood thudding shut with a finality that made her pulse quicken. Kaelin turned. He had changed from his fighting leathers into simple black clothing, a loose shirt unlaced at the throat, trousers tucked into worn boots. Without the formality of his position, he looked younger, more human, more dangerous. "You're wondering why I summoned you," he said. The question had crossed my mind. "How did you survive?" he asked abruptly. "The Ashwood massacre. I've read every report. There were no survivors." "The reports were wrong. Obviously." He moved closer, and the firelight caught the planes of his face. "But I want to know how. What made you different?" Something in his gaze, that same raw grief she'd glimpsed in the arena, made her answer honestly. "I was on patrol when the attack began. By the time I reached the settlement..." She paused, fighting down memories that still woke her screaming. "Everyone was already dead or dying. I tried to save the pups. I fought the hunters." She touched her scarred face. "I failed. Yet you survived. I was left for dead, buried under bodies." Her voice had gone flat, the only way she could speak of it. "When I finally dug myself out, there was nothing left but ashes and bones." Kaelin was silent for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He sat in the chair across from her, putting them at equal height, and reached for a decanter on the table between them. "Whiskey? I don't drink with strangers. I'm your alpha now. We can hardly remain strangers." He poured 2 glasses anyway, pushing one toward her. "Besides, you put a blade to my throat tonight. I'd say that makes us more than acquaintances." Despite herself, Seraphina felt her lips twitch. She took the glass but didn't drink. "What do you really want, Kaelin Valdris?" The use of his full name, without title, should have been an insult. Instead, his eyes darkened with something that looked almost like approval. "I want to know why you're really here. A woman who can defeat me in combat doesn't need anything. She could survive alone indefinitely." So why come here? Why fight for a position that puts you under my authority? Perhaps I'm tired of being alone. Something shifted in his expression, that grief again, rising to the surface before he forced it back down. Yes, he murmured. I understand that better than you might think. They talked until dawn, of her pack, of his dead mate Lysara, of grief that threatened to swallow them whole. Serafina shared things she'd never told anyone, her mother's garden, her sister's laugh, and the lullabies her people sang during winter solstice, and Kaelin listened like a man starving for connection. I should go, she finally said, before the household wakes. Yes, but neither moved. You're not what I expected, she admitted. Neither are you. His hand found hers. Whatever brought you here, whatever you're truly seeking, my door is open to you. Serafina's throat tightened. Don't be kind to me, she wanted to say. I'm here to destroy someone you might love. Thank you, Alpha, was all she managed before fleeing into the corridor. The training grounds were brutal. Serafina had expected resentment from the other warriors. She'd humiliated their Alpha King in public combat, after all. What she hadn't expected was the systematic campaign of hostility that began the moment she stepped onto the practice field. The Ashwood bitch thinks she's special, growled a massive warrior named Corvus, loud enough for everyone to hear. Thinks one lucky fight makes her worthy of the Valdris name. Lucky? Serafina kept her voice even as she selected a practice sword from the rack. Is that what you call it when your alpha yields? Corvus's face darkened with rage. You dare? I dare many things. She turned to face him fully, noting the way the other warriors had formed a loose circle around them. Would you like a demonstration? Before Corvus could respond, Draven strode onto the field with barely concealed fury. The new warrior will train with the recruits, basic formations, basic drills. We'll see if she can follow orders as well as she can fight dirty. The insult was obvious, placing a warrior who'd defeated the Alpha King himself among untrained younglings. Serafina saw the trap clearly. If she protested, she'd seem arrogant. If she complied, she'd lose status. Of course, Beta. She smiled, all teeth and no warmth. I'm sure I can learn much from observing how the Valdris pack trains its young. Draven's eye twitched at the implied criticism, but he couldn't address it without revealing his own pettiness. The morning devolved into exhausting tedium, but Serafina turned the humiliation into advantage, winning the young wolves' admiration while their instructor seethed in the corner. She felt eyes on her and looked up to find Kaelin watching from a balcony overlooking the training grounds. Even at this distance, the intensity of his gaze made her skin prickle with awareness. Their eyes met and held. The previous night's intimacy hung between them, a secret shared in the space of a single glance. Then Draven stepped deliberately into her line of sight, blocking her view of the Alpha. He sees something between us, she realized with a chill, and he means to stop it. The question was, why? Was it simple jealousy over his position, or something more sinister? That night, Serafina began her true investigation. The stronghold was a labyrinth, but one name kept appearing in her research: Fenwick, the former spymaster, now retired. A man who'd been seen meeting with hunters in the weeks before Ashwood burned. She was nearly at his chambers when a hand closed around her arm. Serafina reacted on instinct, spinning with her blade clearing its sheath, only to freeze when she found herself face to face with Kaelin. You. The word came out accusatory. Me. He released her arm but didn't step back. Care to explain why you're prowling the East Wing with a blade in your hand? I couldn't sleep. I was walking. Walking. Toward Fenwick's chambers. His voice roughened with something that might have been hurt. Don't lie to me. Not after last night. There are things I cannot tell you. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. Because trusting me might destroy everything you've worked toward? She couldn't deny it. Kaelin was silent. Then, slowly, He stepped aside, clearing her path. Go, he said quietly. Do whatever you came to do. But know this. Whatever secrets you're keeping, whatever enemies you're hunting, you're not alone anymore. Whether you want my help or not, you have it. Why? She whispered. You barely know me. I know you're the first person to make me feel something other than grief in 3 years. His voice cracked on the admission. My wolf recognizes yours. Every instinct screams that you belong with me, and I'm terrified of what that means. His fingers intertwined with hers in the darkness. Before she could respond, a scream shattered the night. They broke apart instantly, both reaching for weapons as the sound echoed through the corridors, high and terrible, and abruptly cut short. That came from Fenwick's chambers, Kaelin said grimly. They ran together through the darkness. When they reached Fenwick's door, they found it hanging, open, splinters scattered across the threshold. Inside, the former spymaster lay dead in a pool of blood, and carved into the wall above his body, in letters that still dripped crimson, the Ashwood bitch will join him soon. The stronghold erupted into chaos. Warriors flooded the corridors, their shouts echoing off ancient stone. Isolde appeared with a contingent of household guards, her silver hair streaming loose, her sharp eyes taking in the scene with grim efficiency. Draven pushed through the crowd moments later, his face a mask of cold fury that flickered with something else when he saw Seraphina standing beside the Alpha. Secure the perimeter, Kaelin commanded, his voice cutting through the confusion. No one enters or leaves until I give the order. And her? Draven pointed at Seraphina, accusation dripping from the word. She was here when we arrived. Perhaps she should explain what business she had outside a dead man's chamber in the middle of the night. Every eye turned to her. The message on the wall had made her a target, but also a suspect. I was with her, Kaelin said flatly. She couldn't have done this. With her? At this hour? Doing what, exactly? That's not your concern, Beta. The warning was unmistakable. The message names her specifically. Draven gestured at the bloody words. The Ashwood bitch. Someone wants her dead. Perhaps someone from her own past. Seraphina's blood ran cold, not because of the threat, but because of the implication beneath Draven's words. He was steering the investigation toward external enemies. Either he was genuinely trying to protect the pack from suspicion, or he was protecting someone specific. Fenwick was the former spymaster, Seraphina said carefully. If anyone knew who betrayed my pack to the hunters, it would have been him. And now he's dead, silenced before I could question him. She let the implication hang in the air. Whoever killed Fenwick had something to hide. After the crowd dispersed, Kaelin examined the body. Poison. Wolfsbane extract. I've seen it before. Seraphina's throat tightened. The hunters had used it on her pack. Only healers have access to wolfsbane in controlled quantities, Kaelin said. The council is compromised, she replied, keeping her voice low. Someone knew I was coming for Fenwick. Someone with access to information about my movements. She held his gaze steadily. Including your Beta. Draven has served my family for 40 years. He was my father's most trusted advisor. And he's been hostile toward me since I arrived. He's been steering the investigation toward external threats, and he was suspiciously quick to arrive that night. That's speculation, not evidence. Then help me find evidence. Seraphina stepped closer. Tonight, we search Fenwick's chambers together, and we search Draven's. Kaelin wrestled with the implications, investigating his own Beta, the man who'd been like an uncle to him, on the word of a stranger. If we're caught, he said finally, it won't just be your position at risk, it will be civil war. And if we do nothing, more wolves will die, starting with me. The words struck home. Tonight. Midnight. My study. That night they found a hidden compartment behind Fenwick's fireplace, a small iron box inscribed with warding marks. Blood wards, Seraphina breathed. Old magic. Whatever's in there, He didn't want anyone to find it. Kaelin lifted the box carefully. Can you open it? Seraphina studied the symbols. The wards are keyed to blood, Fenwick's blood specifically. Anyone else who tries... She trailed off meaningfully. Then we find someone who knows how to break wards. Kaelin hesitated. There's Moira, an elder who lives in the northern tower. She's not entirely trusted by the council. They call her practices primitive. But she sees things, knows things. If she looks at you, she'll know about everything between us. Then let her know. Seraphina rose on her toes and pressed a kiss to his cheek, a whisper of contact that left them both shaken. I'm tired of secrets, Kaelin. I've spent 3 years hiding in shadows. If we're going to find the truth, we need allies. She slipped away with the box, leaving Kaelin alone with his fingers pressed to the spot where her lips had touched. Moira's tower stood at the very edge of the stronghold, so close to the outer wall that it seemed to grow from the stone itself. The stairs leading up were narrow and treacherous. No guards were posted here. No servants came to clean or bring meals. The old witch preferred her solitude. Before Seraphina could knock, a voice drifted through the ancient oak door, thin and cracked with age, but carrying undeniable power. Enter, child of Ashwood. I've been expecting you. The chamber beyond was a contradiction, cluttered yet organized, dark yet filled with strange luminescence from dozens of candles burning in colors Seraphina had never seen. Dried herbs hung from the rafters. Bones and crystals covered every surface. And in the center of it all, seated in a chair that might have been a throne, was the oldest wolf Seraphina had ever seen. Moira's face was a map of wrinkles, her hair pure white and wild as a winter storm. But her eyes were deep gold, burning with intelligence and something that looked disturbingly like amusement. So you're the one who's turned our alpha inside out. I didn't think anyone could breach those walls he built after Lysara. I came about the box. Fenwick's dirty secrets. Moira extended a gnarled hand. I crafted those wards myself, 60 years ago. Fenwick paid handsomely. He wanted something that would keep his secrets safe even after death. Her expression sobered. He didn't anticipate being murdered. Can you open it? I left myself a back door. All skilled crafters do. Never give away all your power. She pricked her finger, let blood fall onto the box, and muttered words in a forgotten language. The symbols glowed. Red, then orange, then white, so bright, Seraphina had to look away. When the light faded, the box's lid stood open. Inside were papers. Dozens of them. Every meeting, every transaction, meticulously recorded. And at the bottom of the payment records, a name that turned Seraphina's blood to ice. Draven Valdris. The Beta had funded the hunters, provided information about patrol schedules, personally selected the night of the attack. No, the word escaped as a broken whisper. This can't... He couldn't have... But the evidence was undeniable. Payment records in Draven's own hand, letters discussing the logistics of the attack, a final note expressing satisfaction that the Ashwood problem has been permanently resolved. 23 wolves, 11 children, her mother, her father, her sister, all dead because Draven wanted their territory, and the silver mines beneath it. You see now, Moira said quietly, the cost of truth. She pressed a small vial into Seraphina's palm. Truth serum. Old magic that even Draven won't resist. Get him to confess publicly, and his own words become his undoing. Seraphina found Kaelin in his study, pacing before the fire like a caged animal. He spun when she entered, relief flooding his features before he registered her expression. What happened? What did you find? Seraphina closed the door and leaned against it, suddenly exhausted. The weight of what she'd learned pressed down on her like mountains of stone. The box. Fenwick kept records. Everything about the Ashwood massacre. Who planned it? Who paid for it? Who... Her voice broke. Kaelin crossed to her, his hands finding her shoulders with desperate gentleness. Talk to me. I can't. Tears finally spilled down her scarred cheek. Kaylin, I can't tell you like this. You won't believe. I'll believe you. He cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. Whatever it is, whoever it is, I'll believe you. You're my mate, Serafina. I feel the bond just as strongly as you do. Nothing you say will change that. Draven, she whispered. It was Draven. Kaylin went completely still. Fenwick's records prove it. Draven funded the hunters. He provided the information they needed. He chose the night of the attack because he knew our patrol schedules. The words tumbled out faster now. He's been lying to you for years, Kaylin. My pack died because your beta wanted our territory. For a long moment, Kaylin didn't move. Didn't speak. Then he released her and stepped back, his face a mask of stone. Show me the proof. The papers spread across his desk told their damning story. She watched his expression shift from disbelief to horror, to rage so profound it darkened the air around him. Gold flickered in his eyes as the wolf rose. 40 years, he growled. He stood at my side, called me brother, held me when Lysara died, and all that time, the blood of 23 innocents on his hands. We need to be strategic, Serafina urged. Draven has allies. If we confront him without preparation, his supporters will revolt. I'll tear him apart. His voice dropped to something dark. I'll rip his throat out in front of the entire pack. And civil war destroys everything your family built. She gripped his wrist. I want him exposed. I want everyone to know what he did. I want his legacy to be nothing but ash and shame. Slowly, the gold faded from his eyes. You have a plan. A challenge. The right of dominion. I challenge Draven for his position as beta. The right requires both combatants to drink from the ceremonial cup. The truth serum goes in the cup, Kaylin finished. When you've beaten him, you demand the truth. In front of everyone. His eyes widened. No. Draven is one of the deadliest fighters in the territories. He'll try to kill you. I defeated you. That was different. I wasn't trying to kill you. His voice cracked. Draven will be. I've been ready to die since Ashwood burned. If ending Draven lays my family to rest, so be it. And what about us? Everything we could have? There is no us until there's justice. I can't love you properly while 23 ghosts stand between us. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken pain. Then Kaylin moved to lock the door. If you're determined, we do it properly. Emergency assembly tomorrow. You issue the challenge publicly. You'd help me expose him, even knowing the shame it brings you? He closed the distance between them. I would burn my reputation to ash if it meant keeping you alive. I would tear down everything I've built if it meant one more day with you. His hand cupped her scarred cheek. I love you, Serafina. I don't know when it happened. Somewhere between the blade at my throat and your kiss on my cheek. But I love you. And if you die tomorrow, I will follow you into whatever darkness waits. Tears spilled down her scars. She'd thought herself incapable of feeling this much. After tomorrow, she whispered. If we survive, I want to complete the bond. I want to be your mate. To spend whatever years we have building something new. Is that a promise? It's a vow. Ashwood wolves don't break vows. Then neither do Valdris wolves. He captured her lips in a kiss that tasted like desperation and hope, and the savage joy of finding home in another person's arms. Tomorrow she would fight. Tomorrow she might die. But tonight, wrapped in the arms of the man she loved, Serafina finally understood what she was truly fighting for. Not just vengeance, not just justice, but a future worth living. The Great Hall had never been so full. Wolves packed every corner, spilling into corridors and courtyards beyond. Word of the challenge had spread through the stronghold like wildfire. The scarred Ashwood warrior, the one who had defeated the Alpha King himself, now calling out the Beta for his position. It was unprecedented. It was madness. It was exactly what Serafina needed. She stood at the edge of the arena, the same sand-covered pit where she'd first faced Kaelin, and let the roar of the crowd wash over her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands were steady. Her mind was clear. 23 souls. I carry them into this fight. I will not fail them. Across the pit, Draven emerged from the opposite entrance. He had abandoned any pretense of the dignified beta. His eyes blazed with barely contained fury, his muscles coiled beneath his fighting leathers like a predator ready to strike. He knew. Serafina could see it in every line of his body, the awareness that this wasn't just a challenge for position. This was a reckoning. "The Ashwood bitch finally shows her true colors," he called out, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Challenging her betters. Reaching for power she hasn't earned. I earned it when I survived what you did to my pack." The words fell into sudden silence. Serafina saw confusion ripple through the watching wolves, saw Draven's expression flicker with the first hint of fear. "What lies are you spreading now?" he demanded. "No lies, only truth." Serafina stepped into the arena, her golden eye fixed on his face. "But we'll get to that soon enough. First, we fight." Kaelin rose from his throne at the head of the hall, his voice carrying with supernatural authority. "The right of dominion has been invoked. Serafina of Ashwood challenges Draven Valdris for the position of beta. As tradition demands, both combatants will drink from the ceremonial cup before blood is spilled." A servant approached bearing an ornate silver chalice, the same cup that had been used for such rituals for generations. Serafina watched Draven's eyes follow it, watched him calculate whether the risk of refusing outweighed the suspicion it would cause. He couldn't refuse. Not in front of the entire pack. Not without admitting he had something to hide. Kaelin lifted the cup. "May the old gods witness this combat. May truth and honor guide the blades. May the worthy wolf prevail." He drank first, a single sip to prove the cup held no poison, then passed it to Serafina. She met his eyes for just a moment, drawing strength from the love she saw there before drinking deeply. The liquid was bitter, herbal, with an aftertaste that tingled on her tongue. Moira's truth serum, mixed with the traditional ceremonial wine. Already she could feel it working, her thoughts becoming sharper, clearer. She passed the cup to Draven. He hesitated. Just for a heartbeat. Just long enough for those watching closely to notice. Then he drank, draining what remained. "Let the rite begin," Kaelin announced. Draven attacked before the words finished leaving the Alpha's lips. He was fast. Faster than Serafina had anticipated, his century of experience evident in every movement. His blade sang through the air in patterns designed to overwhelm, to end the fight quickly. The crowd gasped as Serafina stumbled backward, barely deflecting strikes that would have killed a slower opponent. He's desperate. He knows something is wrong. He's trying to finish this before the serum takes hold. She couldn't let him. Serafina stopped retreating, stopped defending, started fighting like what she was, a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Their blades clashed in a symphony of steel and fury. She matched him strike for strike, using her smaller size to slip beneath his guard, using her blind side as a trap rather than weakness. Every feint, every counter, every desperate exchange pushed them both toward their limits. Blood splattered the sand. Hers. His. It didn't matter anymore. The crowd had fallen silent, transfixed by the brutal beauty of two wolves fighting with everything they had. This wasn't a duel for position. This was war. Draven's blade caught her shoulder, and Serafina hissed as pain lanced through her arm. She spun away, barely avoiding a follow-up strike that would have taken her head. Her vision blurred. Her muscles screamed. "Not yet," she commanded herself, "not until he confesses." She thought of her mother's face, her father's laugh, her sister's small hand clasped in hers on the night they died. 23 souls. Serafina roared and launched herself at Draven with renewed fury. The exchange that followed was too fast for most eyes to track. Strike, counter, feint, strike. Bodies twisting through forms refined over centuries of wolf warfare. Serafina felt the truth serum singing in her blood, sharpening her instincts, stripping away fear and doubt until only pure purpose remained. Draven stumbled. It was small, a slight misstep, a moment of imbalance, but it was enough. Serafina drove her elbow into his throat, swept his legs, and followed him down to the sand with her blade pressed against his chest. "Yield," she commanded. His eyes were wild, searching for escape, but there was none. "I yield," he spat. "Take the position." "I don't want your position." She pressed harder, drawing blood. "I want the truth. Tell them what you did to Ashwood." She could see him fighting the serum, jaw clenching, sweat beading on his forehead. "Tell them." Her voice rang through the hall. "Tell them how you funded the hunters. Tell them why 23 wolves had to die." His face contorted. The serum burned through every defense. And finally, he broke. "It was supposed to be clean." The words exploded from him. "No survivors, no witnesses, but you survived. You ruined everything." A gasp rippled through the crowd. "Why?" Serafina demanded. "Why did Ashwood have to die? The silver mines beneath your lands, worth more than everything in the Northern Territories combined. I needed the wealth, the power." His lips twisted into something ugly. "I'd do it again. Every whimpering pup, every screaming mother." Serafina's blade moved toward his throat. "No." Kaelin's voice cracked through the air. "Serafina, stop." She froze, one breath from ending him. He confessed. The whole pack heard him. He deserves to die. He does. Kaelin dropped into the arena, approaching slowly. But not like this. Not in the heat of combat. "Let the council try him. Let his execution be witnessed by everyone. Give them truth and understanding. That matters more than quick vengeance." She looked into his eyes and saw her own grief reflected there. But she also saw hope. A future being built brick by painful brick. Serafina withdrew her blade. "Take him," she said, as warriors rushed forward. "Try him, execute him." She crouched beside Draven, letting him see the fire in her eye. "But every night in your cell, remember? An Ashwood wolf brought you to your knees. That's my justice. The rest is formality." They dragged him away, his screams echoing until they faded to silence. The moon hung full and silver over the stronghold's highest tower. Serafina stood at the parapet, letting cold wind wash over her wounds. The healers had tended her injuries, but she'd refused to rest. Not yet. Footsteps approached from behind. She didn't need to turn. "The council voted unanimously," Kaelin said, stopping beside her. "Execution at dawn. His allies have all renounced him, falling over themselves to prove their loyalty." Bitterness tinged his voice. "Convenient. How quickly rats abandon a sinking ship." "It's over," she whispered. "Ashwood has its justice. My family can finally rest." "And you're alive." He turned to face her fully. "What will you do now?" She'd spent so long focused on vengeance that she'd never truly considered what came after. Now a future stretched before her, terrifying and beautiful and completely unknown. "I made you a vow," she said softly, "before the fight. Do you remember?" His breath caught. "I remember. I meant it." She turned to face him, letting him see every emotion she'd kept hidden, the fear, the hope, the love. "I want to complete the bond, Kaelin. I want to be your mate, your partner, your equal in all things." "You've always been my equal." His hands trembled as they cupped her scarred face. "From the moment you walked into my arena and looked at me without fear. From the moment you put a blade to my throat. You've never been anything less." "Then claim me." The words came out fierce, certain. "Properly. The way wolves have claimed their mates since the beginning." His eyes flashed gold. not with rage this time, but with something far more primal, the wolf rising to meet its other half. Here? Now? Under the moon that watched my pack die, under the stars that have guided me through 3 years of darkness. She bared her throat to him, the ultimate gesture of trust from one wolf to another. Make me yours, Kaelin Valdris, and let me make you mine. He kissed her first, fierce and desperate and tasting of all the fear they'd both carried, fear of loss, of love, of hoping for something that might be snatched away. She felt his hands in her hair, felt the bond between them surge like a living thing demanding completion. Then his teeth found her throat. The bite was primal, possessive. His teeth broke skin, and Serafina gasped as fire raced through her veins, as something clicked into place inside her soul that she hadn't even known was missing. She felt him. Not just his body against hers, but his essence, his spirit, the very core of who he was. His grief and his strength, his loneliness and his desperate hope, his love for her burning so bright it nearly blinded her. When she could think again, she found herself gripping his shoulders, her own teeth bared. My turn, she growled. She bit him with equal ferocity, claiming him as thoroughly as he'd claimed her. Felt the bond complete itself in a surge of light and heat, and something that might have been magic or might have been simply two broken souls finally finding wholeness in each other. When it was over, they stood together on the tower's edge, foreheads pressed together, breathing the same air. The claiming marks on their throats throbbed in perfect synchronization, two hearts beating as one. I love you, Kaelin whispered. I will love you until the stars burn out and the mountains crumble to dust. I will love you beyond death, beyond time, beyond any force that tries to separate us. I love you too. Serafina pulled back to meet his eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, she smiled. A real smile, full and bright and free. I thought that part of me died with Ashwood. But you brought me back, Kaelin. You made me want to live again. We brought each other back. He kissed her forehead, her scarred cheek, the corner of her lips. Two broken wolves who somehow became whole together. Below them, the stronghold stirred with the first signs of dawn. In a few hours, Draven would face execution. In a few weeks, they would need to rebuild. But for now, in this moment, there was only the two of them. The last daughter of Ashwood and the Alpha King who had sworn never to love again. Standing together in the silver light of the fading moon, ready to face whatever came next. She had come to this place seeking vengeance, expecting death, believing herself incapable of ever feeling whole again. Instead, she had found something she'd thought lost forever. A home, a purpose, a love fierce enough to heal even the deepest wounds. The 23 souls she carried could finally rest. And from their ashes, something new would grow. And as the first rays of sunlight crept over the distant mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Serafina of Ashwood took her mate's hand and smiled. Together. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you'd like to listen on the go, all my stories are also available on Spotify. You'll find the link in the description below. A big thank you to everyone who's following. Your support truly means the world to me.